All right, so today we're going to hit Pong in GameMaker, and I'm going to use the visual version of GameMaker language. So let's get started by creating a new project first. So here I've got GameMaker. I would just want to make a new blank game. So I've got game selected. I selected blank game. It's going into my games project. I'm going to call this one Pong 2 because I have done this video before. So then we're going to hit let's go, and we're going to be confronted with a blank GameMaker workspace. So the first thing we're going to need is some kind of a room. So we've got a room here. I'm going to open that room up. I'm going to swap my workspace over. If you haven't played in here before, the room is like basically where that's like think the level of the game that we're working on, and the workspace is where we're going to kind of put code in. So first things first, in my room, I'm going to fix the size. So I'm going to make my size 640 by 320. And that's going to make me a nice little room like this. Navigating in here is a little funny. So mouse wheel scrolls up and down. And if you hold shift while scrolling the mouse wheel, that'll get you side to side. If you, for some reason, like hold down control and move your mouse around, it either zooms in or out depending on which direction you move the mouse. I don't like that as a feature. You can hit Control Enter to bring you back to the default zoom. So if you've kind of jankified your zoom, hit Control and Enter at the same time. Okay, so I've got my room, I've got my size set. Now I'm going to need some sprites. So the first thing I'm going to do is for this game, I'm going to need two sprites. I'm going to need one for the ball, one for the paddle. So I'm going to go into sprites. I'm going to hit create here. I'm going to scroll down and find sprites. So I'm going to make a sprite. This one's going to be called sprite 1. So I'm going to do SPR underscore ball for that one. And then I'm going to here hit create. I'm going to go down to sprite again. And I'm going to call this one SPR paddle. Okay, now here I'm going to hit resize, and for my ball we're going to do an 8 pixel by 8 pixel ball. You'll notice that filled in already because I had this maintain aspect ratio clicked. Great, we're going to hit apply. Then we're going to hit edit image here. So I've got my 8 by 8 image. You can make this however you want. So you can kind of Minecraft yourself a circle here. I'm going to be real lazy. I'm just going to use the rectangle fill, and I'm going to fill in my ball entirely. So I'm going to play with a square ball. You can do you. If you want to make your ball look a little fancier, right, you can like add some kind of texture to it. I actually think this looks kind of slick, so I'm going to go with that. You do you. Doesn't matter. Okay, so that's my first sprite. The other thing I'm going to need to edit about my sprite is up here, the handle for your sprite. You want to do middle center for most things. That's going to make your life way easier. If you handle everything by the top left coordinate, you'll have to do some math. The middle center is going to put the kind of control point in the center of this thing. If we move it around, we can see the kind of options here. Trust me, for the vast majority of things you do, you're going to want to handle things by the center. So I've got that middle centered. Now I can go ahead and close the sprite editor there. I can go ahead and close that sprite. I don't need that anymore. Uh-oh. I edited the wrong one. Oh, God. Lazy solution. Rename this one to SPR ball. The name already exists. Rename this one to SPR garbage. Rename this one to SPR ball. Then rename this one to SPR paddle. Man, that was stressful. All right. So here I've got my ball sprite. I'm gonna open, or sorry, this is my paddle sprite. I'm gonna open this up. I'm going to go ahead here and hit resize again. I'm going to make my paddle 8 pixels wide and 64 pixels tall, so I'm going to need to uncheck the aspect ratio there. And then we're going to go ahead and hit apply. And then we're going to go ahead and hit edit image. So we're going to get our paddle here. I'm going to make my paddle entirely white. Again, you do you. If you want to make your paddle visually appealing, like you want to add a red boundary to one side or something, you could go ahead and do that. I'm not interested in doing that, so I'm just going to leave it as a white paddle. I'm done with that, so I'm going to close it. Here, the only thing I need to do is I need to click that I want to handle this also by the middle center. And then I'm going to go ahead and close that because I'm not going to need to play with the sprites anymore. So those are my two sprites. Now we're going to go in and we're going to make some objects. So our objects are going to be the things that are in the room. And my room is going to actually have, surprisingly, 4 things in it, but they're only going to be 3 kinds of things. So the fourth... All right, let's talk through the things. Pretty obviously, we're going to want a ball. So I'm going to go ahead and in objects here, I'm going to hit create, and I'm going to create an object. And I'm going to call my new object obj for object underscore ball. That's going to be one thing I'm definitely 100% going to need. Then I'm going to create another object. This object is going to be obj underscore paddle. And then I'm going to make one more object in here that's going to be real unobvious. And my other object that I'm going to create in here is going to be obj underscore game. And that's going to do some like keeping track of stuff for me. We're not going to fiddle with that for a bit, so we can ignore that one for the moment. I'm just going to close that guy right now. We'll deal with him in a minute. For obj ball and paddle, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to set our ball sprite to the ball sprite. And then we're going to select our paddle sprite here. Use this collision mask the same as the sprite. That just makes it so that the game treats the sprite itself as the object that you're looking to check collisions against. So that's going to make our life work well. Now I'm going to go into the room here quick, and I'm going to put a paddle and a ball in the room. So ball goes in the center of the room here. You can look here and check what kind of values that's created at. You can click that thing here and check that the X is 320 and the Y is 160 to start with. Then I'm going to grab my paddle, and I'm going to put a paddle on the left side, and I'm going to put a paddle on the right side. So I'm going to want those to act like 2 different paddles. For right now, I'm just going to go ahead and toss a paddle in there, and we'll deal with the fact that we want them to be different in a bit. At this point, I'm not going to put what the hell, let's put the game in here. So I'm just going to drop the game in here someplace. This gets this little question mark thing. That means it doesn't have a sprite. I'm not intending that to have a sprite because I'm just going to use that to keep track of some stuff. You'll see what stuff later. So I've got my 2 paddles, my ball. I'm going to hit run here. That's going to show me that I've got a running game. So now I've got objects in here. They don't do anything. Like pressing the keys doesn't do anything. So first things first, we're going to get something to move. So I'm going to start with getting the paddles to move. So I'm going to go back into my workspace, and I've got my paddles. And I'm going to hit add event. And I'm going to use step as my event. And then I'm going to pick. And right here, I'm going to pick GameMaker language visual. And I'm going to say, don't ask again for this project for me. If you want to write the GML code, you can absolutely do that. I'm going to focus almost all of my tutorials, maybe all of my tutorials, on using the visual language because I actually find it nice. I think it's really relatively chill to write in. If you're super used to writing code, you may find that GML code is fine, and you can absolutely do that. I found there were more tutorials for GML code, so go ahead and grab it if you like. All right. This window has the same control scheme as the other one, so it's mouse wheel moves you up and down, shift and mouse wheel moves you left and right. I'm going to scoot over here to obj paddle step. Right, so I'm looking at this guy. And then in here, I'm going to need some ifs for keys. So in this search bar, you can do key, and there's going to be if key down. So I'm going to say if the key is down and it's the up key, then we're going to need to set something. So I'm going to search for set here, and I'm going to look down here for movement, and I'm going to find set speed. If you put this underneath, it'll just do it all the time. I only want it to do it when the key is down. So I'm going to attach it to the right-hand side of the box. You'll see I get a little arrow. If I attach it to the bottom of the box, I'd get this little blue line. That's not the one I want. It would always do that. I only want it to do it if the up key is pressed. And we're going in the vertical, and we're going to change our speed to -8. So let me hit run, and we'll see what that does. So now if I press the up arrow, my paddles went up, and they're gone, unfortunately. Like, that's it for paddles. They've continued to move. They're way up there now. So I would like that to not happen, so I need a way to get them back down, right? So to get them back down, I'm going to actually just copy this, and I'm going to paste it. And we're going to change this from up to down, and we're going to set the speed from -8 to 8. So the way GameMaker works is it counts X's are positive to the right and negative to the left, and Y's are negative goes up and positive goes down. It's really a little bit annoying that positive is down. So now I should be able to control my paddle. So now we can go up, we can go down. We can't stop now, which is annoying. So I'd really like it to stop. It would be really hard to play Pong like this. So I'm going to go ahead and add that we want to stop. So there's a friction that you can put in here. So I'm going to use set friction, and I always want there to be friction. So I'm just going to grab my friction here, and I'm going to set my friction to 1. And then I'm going to hit run on this again, and that'll show us how this works. So having a friction of 1 just means that it takes a couple of pixels to slow down. You can change this value if you want. You can make it a little slipperier if you like. I found 1 to be a nice value for me, but play with it a bit. You can set that value to 0.1, and we'll get a much slipperier game. So they do slow down, but it takes the most of the screen now. Like I said, play with it. You're not going to break anything by fiddling with it, so all good. Okay, so now I've got my paddles moving up and down, and I think that's a good start for me. So now I'm going to go into the ball object here, so I can click over here to zoom me to the ball, or I could have scrolled up and moved around there. And now I'm going to hit, let's see, we're going to need a create event. So we're going to hit add event, we're going to create. And in my create event, okay, I need to scoot my screen over so I can see what I'm doing. And in my create event, the first thing I'm going to want to do is kind of randomize some speed stuff. So first things first, I'm going to set my direction to a random variable. So I want the set direction random here. So I'm going to make this guy go either left or right. And then I'm going to do a little bit of variable assigning. So here I'm going to assign a variable. And the variable that I'm going to assign is going to be the direction variable. And then here we're going to do a little bit of kind of semi-real coding. So we're going to do direction plus a random in the range of -35 to 35. So what that's going to do is that's going to say, all right, we're either going left or right, and then we're going to change our direction by adding a random number to our direction. And that random number is going to be between -35 and 35. Oh, and I can do this a better way. I don't need to do direction plus. I can check the relative box here. So that's going to, here we'll get a little summary of what that does. We're going to add a random number from minus 35 to 35 to our direction variable. Okay. And then one other thing here that I'm going to do that's a little bit esoteric is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to grab a randomize and I'm going to put that at the top. So GameMaker has this thing about picking random numbers. It helps if you just randomize the seed before you start. You don't have to randomize the seed all the time, but it helps if you put it somewhere in the code. Otherwise, it tends to launch the ball in exactly the same direction every run of the game right at first. And I don't want my game to be predictable, so I want to pick a random seed to make that behavior different every time I play the game. So I've got my randomize, I've got my direction. The last thing I want to do in here is going to be to set the speed. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to set speed, and I'm just going to set that right here. And we're going to set that speed to 5. Okay, let's see what this does. So now if I run the game, I get a ball that bounced off the screen. That started in the middle and went out. 5 seemed a little slow, but don't worry, we'll get there. That time it went in a different direction. Great. Okay, so I can see that it's doing some stuff, right? So here's the thing I want it to do. That's creation, right? When I create a ball, I want to randomize. I want to get a random direction. I want to set my speed, and then I want to let the ball run. Now, my next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to add a step variable, or a step event. So in my step event, I'm going to want some stuff to happen. And the stuff that I'm going to want to happen in my step event is I want to get this thing to bounce off the walls. So I'm first going to get it to bounce off the top and bottom of the screen. So we're going to use an if here. And if the variable I'm going to control is y. So if the y is less than 0, so this is going to be bouncing off the top of the screen, then we're going to assign a variable. And here we could do some kind of complicated math with angles and shit and figure out that what we want to do is like set the direction to 360 degrees minus the direction. Or we could just be lazy, and what I want to set is the vertical speed. So I'm going to look here, and I'm going to see there's a built-in variable v speed. And what I want to do is I want to make that to negative the v speed. And when that little tab pulls up, if you select the one you want and hit enter, it'll autocomplete. So now it should bounce off the top of the screen. I hesitate to do this. I can't see if it bounced. So this is a problem that I'm going to have where I can't see if it bounces. So I'm just going to fill these in and we'll see that they work. So here I'm adding another if variable. This one's going to be the y. Oops. The y is going to be greater than room height. So if we're bigger than room height, we're going to assign a variable here. And that variable is going to be, again, the v speed. And we're, again, going to just copy this and paste it here. And then we're going to do a couple more just to get it bouncing off the sides. So we're going to go, if the x value is less than 0, then we're going to assign a variable. And this is going to be our horizontal speed. And that's going to be negative the horizontal speed. And here, I'm just going to get a little lazy. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it. And we're going to say if x is greater than room width, we're going to do this same h speed goes to minus h speed. So now it should bounce off all 4 walls. Let's just check and see that that's working. Okay. You might notice it's not bouncing off the paddle. Feels like a problem. But it is at least bouncing off the walls. Okay. So I've got it bouncing off the walls. Cool. Now I need to get it bouncing off the paddles. So I'm in the ball. I'm going to add another event. And my next event is going to be a collision event with an object. And it's going to be checking if it collides with a paddle. And this one's going to be really easy because we actually already kind of wrote this one. We already wrote it right here and right here. So I'm just going to copy this guy, and I'm just going to paste it in here. So if we hit the paddle, all I want to do is reverse the horizontal speed. That'll make it bounce off the paddle from either side, actually, which is kind of fine. So let's hit run and see what we've got. Okay, now it's bouncing off the back of that paddle. It's bouncing off the front of this one, front of this one. Okay. All right. This game is going to feels a little boring right now. Like, admittedly, I suck at Pong, so I'm having not the easiest time playing this with myself, but it's also not a game right now, but it's just too slow. So what I want to do is I want to add a little bit of spice to my game. So when I hit the paddle, I'm going to change the horizontal speeds. Like, we're just going to flip the horizontal speed around, right? So that's going to reverse. So if we're going 10 units to the left, we're going to go 10 units to the right now. I actually want it to go, if we're going 10 units when we hit the wall, I want it to go a little faster on the way back out. So I'm going to multiply this by 1.1. So that's going to be a 10% increase on speed. If you wanted a 5% increase, you could do 1.05. I'm going to do 1.1 so it's hella obvious what's going on. So now I'm going to hit run. I missed that one. Okay, see how this is getting faster now? Oh, I missed it. Okay, so we're faster. All right, great. Now, let's get some scorekeeping involved. So to get scorekeeping involved, this is where I'm going to use my my object game, right? So I'm going to open the game object. So I'm going to double click this guy. That's going to bring it into the editor here. My game object is going to need a variable. So I'm going to add an event here on the creation of this object. We're going to scroll over here. And we're going to search for globals. Globals are, generally speaking, kind of a crummy idea in programming. But what the hell, let's just go ahead and use it. So here I'm going to set a global variable, and this is going to be player 0 score. So I'm going to have a player 0 that's going to get a score of 0 to start with. And I'm going to have a player 1 score. All right, so I've got my 2 player scores, and then I'm going to add an event here, and I'm going to add a draw event. So in my draw event, I'm going to look for a text. So here I've got draw value. This is going to be one of my, so my draw value, I'm going to leave the caption off, so I'm just going to delete the caption, and I'm going to say, I want you to draw global. So global says I'm grabbing a global. And then the global I want is player 0 score. So that's going to be the left player. And this is positioning. So I'm going to make mine at 20 and 20. That should hopefully put it behind the left player's paddle. And then we're going to do this exact same thing. So I'm just going to copy this guy. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to make that player 1 score. And the only difference is where we draw it. So we're going to do room width minus 20. So it was at the player 0, right? The left player is going to be drawn at 20. And then the right player is going to be drawn 20 pixels in from the right edge of the screen. So we should be able to hit play here. And now I have these little zeros up here. Okay, now we're not changing that score ever. So we need to figure out how to change that score. So let's go into the ball. And let's say, all right, look. When is it that I want to change the score? So this is my ball object. Oops. Ball. Okay, and when we step, I have already got my bouncing. So I actually don't want this to bounce. So I'm gonna comment this out, right? I'm gonna turn this off. So I'm gonna hit Control K here to turn that off. That kind of deactivates this thing. And what I want to do is I want to assign a variable, and the variable that I actually want to assign here is going to be a global. And that's going to be dot, and now, okay, when it goes off the left edge of the screen, player 1, the right player, needs to get a point. So we're going to do player 1 score. I'm going to put 1 in here, and I'm going to do relative. So that's going to add 1 to player 1 score. You can see that there. Oops. That window's a little small to work with. So let's enlarge that guy a little bit. Oop. Not the thing I wanted to zoom on. Okay. And then here we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to turn this guy off. I'm going to add in an assigned variable. The variable I want to assign is going to be global dot player 0 score. We're going to do a 1 and relative. And then I've got an issue. So here's my issue. If I go in here, uh-oh. So it went off the left edge, and it continued to add to my score. So player 1 missed 1 ball, and he's negative 700 and something points deep. So I don't want that to happen. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, let's destroy an instance. And then I'm going to go in here, and we're already in a ball. So we're destroying a ball. And then we're going to create an instance. And this is going to be an object ball. And our Y value, we're going to put to X value, we're going to do room width over 2. And Y value, we're going to do room height over 2. And then I'm just going to copy this guy down here. Oops. Like I said, I'm going to copy this guy down here. And I'm also going to bring in a destroy instance. So we're saying, if the ball goes off the screen, F that ball, we're getting a new ball. Right, so destroy instance is going to destroy the ball that we're working with and create a new one here. Okay, so let's check and see if this is working. So now we should have... Oh, it went off that edge, and then it respawned in the middle. Went off that edge, respawned in the middle. Okay, cool. Now, this is not strictly speaking a game at the moment, and I still don't have two-player control of the paddles. Right now I have one control for the paddle, and that's the 2 arrow keys up and down are controlling both paddles at the same time. So first things first, let's fix that nobody loses. So here we're going to go into our draw event, right? And we're going to say, all right, I'm going to need some ifs here. So we're going to remove our search bar. And we're going to say, all right, if variable. So we're going to say if our variable of global dot player 0 score is bigger than, let's say, 3, then we're going to need to do a couple of things. First thing first, I'm going to draw some text. So that text is literally just going to be a caption. And it's going to say, player 0 wins. And then we're going to copy this stuff, and we're going to paste it right here, and we're going to change it to player 1. And we're going to change this to player 1. Now, I think I'm still going to have a little bit of a problem. So let's run this and see what we get. So somebody needs to get to 3 first. So I'm just going to dodge out of the way. Okay, so it says player 1 wins up here. The ball keeps going, which is a bit annoying because now player 0 wins. So first things first, I want to fix the where is it. So I don't want to draw it at 0, 0. I want to draw it in the middle of the screen. So to get it in the middle of the screen, we're going to do room width over 2 and room height over 2. And then I think it's going to be less typing for me to delete that and paste this and move it so it's inside and switch that to A1. Okay, so now we should get middle of the screen. I'm still going to have an issue with this, so let's see what we got. Oops. Ah! Where'd my game go? Okay. So somebody needs to get to 3. Okay, it says player 0 wins, but it's kind of down and left. So I want that to be kind of, well, I want it to be like, I want the text to be like center aligned, and I want it to be handled by the middle. So I have a tendency to want to do this universally. So I'm going to be real lazy, and I'm just going to do it when we create the game, right? So when everything gets launched, we're just going to set our text alignment. So that's going to be down here. There's set text alignment is one of these. And you can just pick, I want center and middle. Now my text is going to be in the middle. I have one more problem. My one more problem is I actually want this to trigger at 3. So I'm going to do greater than or equal in both of these guys. Okay, so we're going to hit run. And now we're going to see that if we... Uh-oh. That didn't work at all. What happened there? Room width over 2. Room height over 2. Oh, I accidentally clicked the relative box on this one. I think that's my issue. Let's go check. Okay, cool. That's working. But again, we still have this problem with the ball. So if we ever get to the point where player 0 wins, player 0 wins shows up now. And I want to stop that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to drag a destroy instance in here. And I'm going to tell it I want to destroy all the ball objects. And here, same thing. Destroy instance. We're going to destroy the ball. Right. Once we've won the game, ball explodes. No more ball. Ball is gone. And on these, I'm not going to create a new ball. We're just going to remove the ball entirely from the game. So now we should see... We get well up out of the way. Okay, player 0, 1. This is... I can still control the paddles, but now we've established a win condition. All right. Let's fix our control issue, and then we'll be done with this puppy. So, I'm going to go up to paddle. Oops, too far. Paddle's right here. So this is my paddle control code, right? And what I want to do here is I want to do some kind of, well, I want to do some limiting and some two-player movement. So I'm going to do the limiting first, and then we'll do the player movement because we're going to copy and paste some code. So here I'm going to check another if condition, right? So my if condition is going to be if we've reached the edge of the screen, we should stop there. So here I'm going to grab an if condition. And my condition that I'm going to be checking is the y. And if the y is ever greater than, oh, and this is going to be tough. Actually, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm not going to use the y. I'm going to use the top of the box. So the bounding box, right? If you've ever turned on debug mode in Minecraft, you've probably seen the bounding box. The bounding box is just the space that my sprite occupies, essentially. So I'm going to say if the bounding box top is less than 0, right? So if the top of the bounding box is off the screen, I'm going to set our speed to 0. So that's going to be a speed thing. So we're going to do set speed, and we're going to do the vertical speed should be set to 0. Okay. This seems like it ought to work. I'm going to go ahead and test this out because I think there may be a problem. So now if I go up, I went up, but now I'm stuck there. And the reason I'm stuck there is that paddle went a little bit too high off the screen. And so now the top of the bounding box is always above the top of the screen. So what I need to do is I need to also set a variable here. So we're going to assign a variable. And the variable we're going to assign is going to be the y value. And we're going to do... okay, so the y value is going to be 0. The y is half of the sprite's height. So we're going to add plus sprite height over 2. Okay, let me make this a little wider so we can see that. So my reason for doing the 0 plus sprite height over 2 is I want to say we're going to go from the top of the screen and we're going to go half the sprite height down. And for me, it makes sense, like just in my head, to stop it first and then assign that variable. It doesn't matter actually, but for me, it makes more sense that way. So now I should be able to go up, and now I can actually come back down. Before I wasn't able to go. See how it's juddering there? The little, right, I can't point at my screen. But see the little juddering right here? So that's it trying to get off the screen and then just getting pushed down every time. So I'm going to grab this thing. I'm just going to copy this. We're going to paste it down here. And here we're going to say, all right, the bottom of the bounding box is bigger than the room's height. Oop, not first. Height. Then we're going to set the vertical speed to 0. That's fine. And then here we're going to do room height minus the sprite height over 2. So that's going to take us from wherever we were just off the screen and scoot us back up onto the screen. Then we can go ahead and check and see that that's going to work. So now I've got going off the bottom, kind of starts that juddering process, going off the top. Great. Awesome. Okay, next thing next. Let's get the 2 players working. So I've got my bounding. That can be the same for both people. The key down and so the movement for the keys is going to have to depend on which player I'm looking at. So this is where things are going to get a little weird. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to, in my paddle object, I'm going to hit variable definitions. I'm going to hit add a variable. And this is going to be the player. It's going to default to 0. It's going to be an integer kind of variable. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the room itself. And I'm going to click on this guy. And this guy has a player value of 0. And then I'm going to click on this guy over here. And this guy also has a player value of 0. I'm going to do a dirty trick. I'm going to say override this value. And I'm going to hit 1. So that paddle is now player number 1. And always will be. So now we're going to go back into our workspace here. We're going to go back over here. And we're going to add some stuff. So I'm going to add an if inside of the VK up. So if we're pressing up, we only want to set the speed if the player is actually 1. So if the player is equal to 1. And then the set speed needs to be attached to that guy. So set speed is attached to if the player variable is 1. Then we're going to do that here again. So here we're going to just copy this guy. We're going to paste that guy in here. Oops, that went in the wrong spot. I wanted it in the down. And then we're going to do our set speed in the down. Uh-oh, what happened? Let's see. So if we're pressing down, we want to set the vertical speed to 8. Okay, so that's my... Now I should only control the player on the right with the arrow keys. So let's see that we've got that working. So arrow key up, arrow key down. I'm only controlling the player on the right. The other one, wow, 10% may have been a bit much. 10% was definitely a bit much. Did you see it clip through the paddle there at the end? Okay, so my left player here needs some controls. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the key down, and I'm going to paste that right here. So now we've got key up, key down. Okay, so I'm going to grab this one and scoot it down here. So now we've got up, down, and up again. Now this one I want to control with a letter. So I want to control this with a W key. And this is going to be if the player is 0, then we'll set the speed. I'm going to copy this guy, and we're going to paste that right there. Hopefully, that went somewhere weird. Okay, so we're going to grab this, and we're going to scoot it up here above. Like I said, we're going to scoot it up here above the bounding box things. So this one is going to get an S. And the only thing we need to do is we need to change our speed to regular 8 instead of -8. I pressed F12 there, by the way. This is full screen mode. I don't want full screen mode. I want to have the whole editor in. All right. So should be good to go here. Let's see what we've got. Okay, so I've got the left and right arrow move, or sorry, the up and down arrow move the player on the right hand side of the screen. W and S move the player on the left hand side of the screen. Cool. I would call this a game. I think that makes a game. Hope you liked it. Hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. Much appreciated. I will catch you on the next one.